Now, Professor William Hogan is on the line from Florida. He's from Doctors for Assange, joining us at short notice, and I'm very grateful to you, Professor William Hogan. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to speak to you about the news that, on top of all the other trials and tribulations, Julian has now had a mini stroke. Do you think if the court had known about that, they might have made a different decision the other day in the London High Court?
Well, that's certainly hard to say. You would hope so. If he's not fit medically to attend the court hearing, how can he be fit medically to be extradited to the United States?
How serious is a mini stroke?
Generally, the consequences are not long lasting, but the risk is that it'll happen again and in a more severe way. It indicates he's got atherosclerosis of his arteries. This was what we call an ischemic event. Therefore, it's a blockage of blood flow. And he had an MRI done of his brain to make sure that there was no permanent damage. But again, it indicates that these things don't happen in 50-year-old men normally. And the reason he's got this happening now is because he's being tortured in prison. And that level of stress results in atherosclerosis of the arteries. He's probably also at risk for a heart attack now and other ischemic events.
Now, some will think you exaggerated there when you said he's being tortured in prison, but that was exactly how his situation was described by the United Nations Special Rapporteur on torture, wasn't it?
That's correct. All the evidence that we have with respect to torture is that he's being tortured. 4 experts in the assessment of torture victims using the Istanbul Protocol all have come to the same conclusion independently. That includes Dr. Meltzer. He was accompanied to Belmarsh Prison to visit Julian by 2 doctors, 2 medical experts. They all interviewed Julian and examined him independently and then conferred afterwards. And they all said, yeah, it's conclusive. He didn't show most or many of the symptoms of torture. He showed all the symptoms of torture. Everyone who's examined Mr. Assange as a victim of torture has come to the same conclusion. The evidence is conclusive, it's overwhelming, and it's unanimous.
Why does your president want to see a journalist tortured for words that he wrote and published?
Wow. That's hard to say. I think it's because he exposed wrongdoing by the government, wrongdoing that Mr. Biden himself participated in. Mr. Biden, as a senator, voted in favor of the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan. And so I think he's probably implicated in some of the WikiLeaks releases. And so he's covering up his own crimes.
The CIA are desperate to see Assange nailed down in a coffin, aren't they? Because some of the most dramatic disclosures that Julian and WikiLeaks made were deeply embarrassing, shaming of the CIA.
That's right. So on several levels. So the torture at Guantanamo. So there was the WikiLeaks releases, the Guantanamo files. That was used by a German citizen to prove that he had been tortured. When he got back, he was left with only his clothes released by the CIA at the border. He had to walk home. And when he got back, his wife had returned to Lebanon. And no one would believe his story about how brutally he had been tortured. And then also Vault 7 releases. So the CIA was furious about the Vault 7 releases. We now know from reporting by Yahoo News, Michael Isikoff and his colleagues, that Mike Pompeo was so enraged by the Vault 7 releases that he started plots to assassinate Assange. And this went up to what Isikoff describes as the highest levels of the administration. And this is supported by over 30 sources they had. So yes, the CIA absolutely is out for vengeance. Vengeance is destructive. They're going to break their toe as it were. I'm trying to remember the exact expression. They're going to break their toe on Assange in a bad way, and the vengeance is just self-destructive. And so the CIA is self-destructing on their vengeance on Assange.
Professor, you're a physician yourself, an eminent one. As you look at Julian Assange and absorb the material that is there about his psychological and now physical health, it's unconscionable, isn't it, that you would extradite such a man to, apart from anything else, it's so utterly disproportionate. You know, this is not a mass murderer. This is a man that published words.
That's right. It is disproportionate. It's unconscionable. It's beyond the pale. It's you know, from medically speaking, you know, it's shocking to the conscience, and that's why we formed Doctors for Assange, and we have over 250 doctors in the organization, and we're speaking out against it.
Professor, thanks for joining us at short notice. I really do appreciate it.